guys, yesterday with Miss Lanning, you guys built a robot finger. You learned how our bones bend at the joints. You now know that our bones and muscles are connected by a tendon, which helps our bones bend at the joints. Today, we are going to explore, what do people who are blind see? Let's get started.
Hi, it's Doug. I want you to meet someone today. This guy, his name is Tommy Edison. Now, Tommy's job is a film critic. That's someone who reviews movies, like Spider-Man or Batman. Here's an example.
Coming out of the theater, you know what? I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was a great movie, but it was decent. You know what? Go early. Save yourself a couple bucks.
Tommy has reviewed hundreds of movies, and yet he's never actually seen a movie. Ever. That's because Tommy Edison is blind. In addition to running a movie review channel on YouTube called The Blind Film Critic, Tommy has a separate YouTube channel where he answers all the many questions that people ask him about being blind. Like, what do you think that blue, red, green, and other colors look like? Or, what was it like growing up blind? Or, here's one. Tommy, is there anything good about being blind? Let's hear what Tommy has to say about that one.
People always say, oh, you poor guy. That's true. But you know what? There's plenty of good things about being blind. I go on airplanes first. I get VIP treatment at amusement parks. I got out of gym. All through school, I totally got out of gym. It was awesome. My hearing is so much better than everybody else's. In fact, all my senses are better than yours.
Tommy says all his senses are better than sighted people's. That's true. Being blind, Tommy doesn't get to enjoy looking at the world, so he really has to rely on his sense of touch and smell. Here's one video where Tommy answers the question, what are your favorite things to touch? Let's hear what he says.
And now it's time to talk about things I like to touch. Dice? Dice are cool to touch. First off, whatever they're made out of, it's a neat material. I'm not quite sure what the heck that is. But then you can feel the numbers on them. It's got little holes and everything. I like them. Another thing I really enjoy is like with my feet to touch stuff, like to walk on the beach. I love to feel sand on my feet. You know, that fluffy sand, or even when you get down close to the water and it's like low tide and stuff, and it's all packed down and cool and everything, that's nice to touch as well. Dogs, right? They've got real coarse fur. There's nothing too soft about it until you get to the ears. That is a nice touch. I could touch a dog's ear all day. I wish they'd make something out of that. All right, not out of the ear itself, but, you know, something that was similar.
Tommy gets lots of questions from his viewers. But by far the most common question of all he gets is this. What do blind people see? Like, is it just blackness? Well, it depends. There are actually different kinds of blindness. Like, some blind people, yes, see nothing. And I guess if we could imagine it, it would look like this. But other blind people see something, more like this. Can you tell what this even is? You can tell that there's light areas and there's dark areas and maybe a shadow of something there. But who knows what it really is, right? In fact, it's a cat sitting on a window ledge, see? So these blind people, they can still see light and dark, but that's it. Like, here's the light coming in through the window, and here's the shadow of the cat. When you have this kind of blindness, the whole world just looks like blurry shadows passing by. You can't actually see objects or things. And then, there's another category of people who aren't blind exactly, but they need to wear glasses. Like me, I wear glasses. Without my glasses, my vision is like this. Blurry. It's pretty bad. Now, I'm not blind, but my vision is so bad, I wouldn't be able to drive without my glasses. What's going on in all these examples? Why these problems with vision? Why are some people, like Tommy Edison, blind, and then why do some other people, like me, have blurry or bad vision? What do you think is going on with our eyes?
Why do you think some people have problems with vision? What are some ideas you came up with? How do you think we could figure out how eyes work? Here's what are some things that Mystery Science came up with. The first thing they thought about was, let's take a closer look at our own eyes. Let's watch the next slide. Look at these eyes and the eyes of the person next to you. We can't look at the eyes at the person next to you, but what you can do is go to your mirror and look at your eyes in a mirror. What is the same? What is different? Do you think that any of the differences could explain why some people have trouble with vision or not? What are your ideas?
You probably noticed that human beings' eyes have three really noticeable parts. First, there's the white part, which we just call the white of the eye. Second, there's this black part that's at the very center of the eye. It's what's called the pupil. And finally, there's this donut-shaped colored part. That's called the iris.
I want you to pause the video, run to the bathroom real quick, and see if you can notice the white part, the pupil, the dark part in the middle, and the iris. That's the color part of your eye. When you say what color your eyes are. Go check it out, your eye in the mirror, and then come back and start the video again.
Most people in the world have a brown iris, but there are all kinds of different shades of brown. And then some people have completely different colors of iris. So it's possible to have a green iris, or a blue iris, or a mixture of color. In fact, the word iris comes from the name of the Greek goddess of rainbows, since people can be born with irises of different colors. So that's the iris. Now, given that people have different colored irises, it's possible you thought, well, maybe that's why some people have better vision than others. But there isn't any one iris color that means having better or worse vision. There are blind people who have blue eyes, and blind people who have brown eyes, and so on. So why do some people have better vision than others? Gosh, it is useful to get a sense of what the outside parts of the eye are. But what are we doing here? If we want to understand how the eye works, we need to see inside the eye, right? Whenever it comes to understanding the body, that's always one of the things that medical scientists do. They look inside. We call it dissection. So let's do that. I'm going to show you an eye dissection. Not of a human eye, though. Instead, we'll look at a cow's eye. Now, I realize that may sound kind of gross, but if an animal like a cow is already dead, you might as well not let the eye go to waste, right? So, here it is. This is the eyeball from a cow. It has a black pupil, and the iris also happens to be really dark, like almost black colored. Now, right away, one thing to notice is why we call it the eyeball. Usually, you only see the very front part of the eye, but as you can see here, the whole thing, it really is shaped like a ball. The same thing is true for a human eyeball. Ours is just a little bit smaller than this, about the size of a ping pong ball. Okay, so now you see the scientist is going to cut the eyeball in half, so that just the front part of the eyeball is left, the part that has the iris and the pupil. Here she is, taking it off. Here's something really crazy to notice. That's the front of the eye. Look as the scientist picks the front of the eye up. And look, you can see through the center of the eye. You can see her glove in the background there. Now remember, the pupil looked like a black spot, but now we can see that it really isn't. It's a hole in the eye.
So even in our own eyes, that pupil is really clear.
This isn't just true for cows' eyes. Human eyes are the same way. The pupil looks like a black spot, but it's actually a hole. It just appears black because it's a hole into the eyeball, which is dark on the inside. Here's a helpful way to think about it. The inside of the eyeball is kind of like a dark room that has a little hole or window in the front. That window is just like the hole in an eye. It's just like the pupil. Light comes into the eye through the pupil. Now, if you look at an eye from the side, you can imagine the whole thing now, the whole eyeball. You can see the parts we already talked about on the outside, but now you can also see one more part that you hadn't noticed before. Look, right there. There's a clear layer over the very front of the eye. This is called the cornea. It acts like a protective layer so that dust or dirt can't get in through your pupil. But the cornea has another very special function. The cornea is a lens. So we're going to call this part the cornea lens. Now, if you're not exactly sure what a lens does, you're going to find out very soon. Before we go any further, though, let's just quickly summarize what we learned from the dissection by looking at the front of the eye. Imagine it's a bright sunny day. The sun is shining on all the objects around you. In other words, you can see things around you. If the sun weren't out or there were no light, you wouldn't see anything. The light from the sun hits those objects around you, and then that light enters your eyeballs. I'm going to show the light with an arrow. So as the light comes toward your eye, it goes through the cornea lens, the clear layer at the front. Then the light goes through the pupil. And then what? Well, then it shines onto the back of the eye. At the back, there's a layer that's a lot like a screen in a movie theater. This screen is called the retina. The retina senses the light that hits it and sends a message to the brain. At the very, very back of the eyeball, behind the retina, there's a cord that connects the eye to the brain. This cord takes messages from the retina to the brain. So you've got the front of the eye, which has a cornea lens and the pupil, where light can come in. And you've got the back of the eye, which has the retina, the screen that detects light and sends messages to the brain through the cord. Okay, so now we know all these parts of the eye, and that light goes into the eye. But how do we actually see? I mean, all these parts together are what allow us to see the world. But how? Well, you can figure it out. In the next video, I'll show you how to build a model of the eye.
Tomorrow, we are going to build a model of the eye using some of the materials in your science envelope.